Because the Mets are really sucking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York.
Hey guys, it's great to have you. First thing I'd like to introduce all my great friends, Art Shamsky, Gov Patterson, Ed Coleman, the Crane, Ed Cranepool. Just want to let you know all these guys are great friends of mine, and it's great to be able to speak to these guys and have a good time, because these are the guys who are over at the other side of the river. And we're going to really find out, because I think Mr. Steve Cohen is going to try to take a lot of things from Mr. George Steinbrenner. So I guess really the great guy that could talk about that would be Ed Coleman. Ed, what do you think about Steve coming in? And I think it's great for the game of baseball. I think it's great for New York. I think he's going to spend a lot of money, and I think it's going to be fun. I think both teams are going to have a really a fun time together, and it's going to be nice. What do you think, Ed?
Yeah, well, the New York fans, Ronnie, are already on him because he hasn't spent that much money. So, which is kind of funny. I think Steve is going about it like he goes about his regular business. I think he's going to be, kind of ordered in the way he goes about it. But I think he's going to bring some free agents here. I think George Springer will be a Met. That's just my belief. And it's nice to have another organization in town that can at least, match the wealth of the Yankees and the resources of the Yankees. Let's put it that way, and have an owner that can go about things that way. I think that most Met fans have always felt a little disrespected over the years, and probably have had an inferiority complex because of the Yankees on the other side of town. But I think that will change with Steve Cohen. He seems to listen. He's taken to social media very easily. He's done a great job with that, reaching out to the fans. And he's getting some of the blowback now, as a matter of fact, because when guys aren't signed and things are slow in the free agent market, he's going to take some heat. But he can stand it. He knows what he's doing. I think it's a great move. He was the guy to own this team. I think that was the move that the Mets needed, and I think things will start picking up in the future.
Ed, I'm looking at the guys like Crane and Art Shamsky. They're two of my great friends, and I hope they get really involved with Steve and let Crane. I hope they would, maybe they might retire Ed and let Ed, get a plaque. He deserves it, after so many years at Mr. Met. And
Ronnie,
I can't believe
they
after so
retired me.
many years, they have never done that.
They retired me 30 years ago. A long time ago, they retired me. But it's been fun working with the organization. And I think, at this particular juncture, it should get exciting next year. If we have baseball in New York, I think Mr. Cohen will probably go out and get some free agents. He certainly has the deep pockets. But the thing about him is he's a numbers guy. He's coming out of a business where numbers mean everything in the stock market. And I think he's looking at some of these salaries that some of these guys are asking, and he's not ready to really jump in with both feet at this particular time because, the numbers are getting crazy and he doesn't have the competition. So I think timing is right for him to pick up some of these free agents, not at their pricing, at the price he wants to pay.
Yeah, hey Ron, if I can say something, if I can add on to that.
Oh, just keep on. Just talk. You're the best. Yeah.
The thing is that I think everybody in baseball knows that everyone took a big hit. The owners took a big hit last year. Well, Steve Cohen wasn't an owner last year. He's coming into this with the most money in baseball, and he didn't have to go through what a lot of the other owners went through last year. And I think the players and the agents know that as well too. They're going to circle back to the Mets probably with for final offers on a lot of these things. And listen, he's not going to overpay. It's been glacially slow thus far, the free agent market, and he's not going to overpay for guys. He wants to kind of see where the market is. He's worked that way his entire life in his other businesses, and I think that's what's going to happen.
That's going to work in his favor. He's going to be able to pick and choose because he does have the most money. He didn't lose any money last year. He made some money in the stock market, so he's okay. He's coming in with fresh money and deep pockets, but it's a matter of evaluating what you want to pay for some of this talent. Just because they throw out numbers, the fans say, go ahead and buy him, but go ahead and, sign this guy. But, these numbers are crazy. You get a pitcher like Bauer. He's had one good year in his career. He's a 500 pitcher. Do you want to pay him $200 million, $300 million? It's nice as a fan to say that, but you know what? I wouldn't want to write that check.
I think what happened too is, and Ed, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what happened is when Steve Cohen finally got the team, the fans were so excited about it. They wanted any kind of change, and their expectations are so high because he does have deep pockets and is such a big fan, that even though everybody understands the situation now because of what happened last year, that they're I'm just reading into what fans have said to me on occasion, that they're disappointed that there hasn't been so much more that the Mets have done. But realistically, he's a businessman, like Crane said, and he's going to make the right decisions. But I think the expectations when he finally got the team were so high, and there was so much excitement that they thought the next day he was going to start spending money. And he just doesn't. He's not going to do that.
I think you're right. I think you're right, Art. Listen, he said at his opening press conference, we're not going to go out and spend like drunken sailors. And he's going to go about this in a mannered way, in an ordered way. But he also and I think this has to be kept in mind too. Sandy brought this up at his press conference too, that they need to restock, AA and AAA. They don't have much there. They have some good young kids that are coming. The Matthew Allens, they've actually drafted pretty well the last couple of years, but those kids, still need some more seasoning. Plus, you didn't have minor league ball last year. Some of them were at the, the other camp over in Brooklyn, in case they were needed. But there was no minor league ball, and I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen with minor league ball this year. We don't know what the season is going to be like, but no, I think you're right. Everyone wants them to jump in. Really, there hasn't been a heck of a lot that's happened thus far. The big three free agents, Real Muto and Bauer and Springer are still sitting there, and a lot of other guys are sitting there too. So he's taking his time and biding his time. I think he knows the market, whether it be the market he usually deals with or the baseball market. He knows it pretty well, and I think he's going to go about it in a sensible way.
The one thing about Steve, he knows he's got the most money, so he can come in at any point in his conversation, with the free agents. He can step in at the end and top any offer if he wants to. Mm-hmm. But he's got to want that product. He's got to be able to evaluate what he really needs, and I think that's what he's going to do. He's going to go out there and he can add one or two free agents very easily late in the season. He still's got 2 months to go before spring training, so there's no rush to go in there. Let the free agents sit there, and they don't have a whole lot of offers because guys lost so much money last year. Yeah. So this is perfect timing for Steve Cohen to pick up free agents and the ones that he really wants and needs, and he knows what he wants. And that's why he brought back Sandy Alderson, who's been in baseball, and he knows the players out there. And he's evaluated these guys, and he told them what his needs are. And they expect that. So they're looking for certain things, and they know they can spend. So it's a matter of picking the right timing and getting the right player. And why spend it now when you can spend it in 2 months?
Don't you agree that some of the players are going to get a little bit nervous going closer to spring training and not get signed? They're going to look at collusion. Remember, they had collusion when we played. What was that, about 25 years ago? They had collusion. And
it was at the right after I retired. They had collusion, and I think the players won some cases. But this is not collusion. Nobody has to.
No. I know that. Don't you think
they don't have the money?
Be a little bit nervous.
You look at the stands last year; they were empty. So these owners lost an awful lot of money. These players were lucky to get any kind of salary last year, and who knows how many games they're going to play this year? It might not be a 162 game season the way it looks. This thing is not cleaned up in New York, so they might not be playing early in the season. They might shorten the season, and of course, then they can prorate the salaries, and guys will get nervous, because I remember when we played with no free agency, we got nervous when we went in to speak to the general managers, and they said, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And when you walked out of the office, you didn't know whether you had a job for the following season. That's why they got so many of the older players at a cheap rate, because they control the market. When free agency came in, now you can test the market, but you got to have bidders. You have to have owners that have some money in their pocket to be able to designate that kind of salary and pick it up. A lot of clubs can't afford these guys. You see San Diego buying some players. They're the only club that really is making a move anywhere. So there's a lot of people that are hurting.
Well, conversely, they're San Diego got a player that was a terrific pitcher, or is a terrific pitcher, and it looks like Tampa Bay just wanted to get rid of some salary. So it looks like it's working in reverse in that way. As long as there's a team out there that'll grab some of these guys making big money, but for the most part, I think these teams are really sitting back and waiting to see what happens. Eddie Coleman, you know more about it than I do, but I think these teams are really being frugal right now to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, listen, they took some serious hits last year. I think you're right, Art. And listen, nobody knows. You can say spring training is going to start in 6 weeks. I have no idea. We've made no plans. I've made no plans to be down there. I'm usually down there at the beginning of spring training every year, and I don't think anybody across the board pretty much has done that. We're all kind of in a holding pattern right now. I know the players said the other day. I mean, I think MLB and the Players Association both came out that they're ready to go at the beginning of spring training, and and to have a full season. I think everybody wants that, but at this point, with the way things are going and the surge after Christmas, I don't think any of us know what's going to happen.
I know my son's a physician. He's a doctor down in Miami, and he said they're just full of it. He said every hospital down there is almost totally covered, just like in New York, in Arizona, the same places where they have spring training. So to be honest, I really don't see them, having a full spring training and having a shortened spring training and having a shortened season. But even if the season starts, a lot of people, to be honest with you, are going to be scared to go back to the stadium, because if they try to open up the whole stadium, everybody's going to be close to one another. Somebody behind them sneezes, right off the bat, you're going to see people just scramble. So I mean, this is I mean, it's just not just being healthy. People got in their mindset. It's been going almost a year that everything is so bad. So it's going to take a little bit for these fans to get back in the stadium.
They've got to get more people inoculated, with this vaccine. In New York, we don't have that many people that have taken the shots yet. So April, I think, is a little far-fetched to think you're going to open that stadium. You might have a stadium that holds 50,000, but you are not going to have but 10,000 people at most. If they get that, I think that's going to be a lot. So I think they're going to push it back a little bit. They'd like to get everybody, to take this shot and get some kind of resistance.
Ronnie, can you feed your dogs so they don't bark?
No, it's mine.
No, my dog's already eaten. You don't have to worry. I fed him steak today.
That's mine. Kathy, can you please?
No, that's Ed's dog.
No, I have two beautiful cats. Know that.
We need Governor Patterson to go into that commissioner's office and straighten things out over there.
What's kind of interesting is in 2018, Mary and I were in the Hamptons, and our host invited Steve Cohen over. And I sat next to him at lunch, and I talked to him for 2 hours. But I never knew that he was a stockholder in the Mets. And I've been kicking myself ever since I realized he was. If I could help him get this whole thing straightened out.
You sure
Ed,
can.
I had a question for you. You made a point a little while ago that I thought was especially astute, and it was about Trevor Bauer. There are a lot of reasons why he might not really be the right candidate at the price that he's asking for, including his record and the fact that he really, like you said, only really had one major great season. Of course, it's right before he becomes a free agent. But I was wondering if the game has changed to the extent that one person isn't going to make the difference theoretically that they could make years ago. And that the way to actually build the Mets up is to go out and get another relief pitcher like Brad Hand and Springer, because this would give them a real center fielder. And a couple, it wouldn't take that many moves really to be a serious contender.
Well, they've got a good shot. Ed sees the ball club. They've got a lot of young players that can perform out there. So they don't need that many players. Yeah, I think they do need a starting pitcher, you know, because they don't know what they have after their first two guys, you know. So you go out and get a starting pitcher, but you know, they need a bullpen. They have to have somebody that can get some people out in the 8th and 9th inning, you know, on a regular basis, consistency basis. They've got some arms, but they have a lot of young players. They have a good ball club. You know, they have a surplus in certain positions, and they're weak in other positions. You know, obviously they like to get a center fielder, and Springer fits that bill, so they know he's out there. That would fill a spot, but then they can make some trades because they're going to have too many outfielders out there. So they've got some spots they have to fill, and they know that to be a contender. But there's plenty of time. I don't think you have to rush and overspend, you know, and go out and get some of these guys, you know, that are asking the top dollar. They made a good move picking up a catcher. They filled the void. They needed a catcher last year. They picked up a catcher. They didn't go for the most expensive guy, but this fellow here is a good catcher, and he's a pretty good hitter. So they didn't spend that $100 million or $150 million, whatever.
Only $40 million.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference. You've got more money to spend for somebody else. So I'd rather have 2 or 3 free agents than one guy taking the whole bankroll.
Yeah, David,
Sorry, Ed, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say that Brad Hand is a guy that makes sense for them because they don't. The only guy they really have is Jerry Blevins, who they brought back on a minor league contract as far as left-handers go in the bullpen, and he'd make a lot of sense. He had a very good year for Cleveland last year.
So
Ed, 16 saves in a short season. But if you listen to Jared Porter when the new GM when he had his opening press conference, he said, you know, I like to be strong up the middle. That's why I think Springer is going to be here. I think he's been a target of his all along, but I think they'd like his price to come down a little bit. But they've looked at James Paxton. They went and viewed him when he threw a couple of weeks ago. They're going to look at Corey Kluber. I think he's throwing on January 13th. Jake Odorizzi is another guy that interests them. So they'll fill in the rotation. I don't think they will go after Bauer, but that's, you know, listen,
Hey, Ed, Justin Wilson's not on the Mets anymore?
He is not. No, he's a free agent as well. So
wow, I thought he was pretty good the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's I thought he had a pretty decent season for him last year. I don't know if they're interested in bringing him back. I haven't heard a lot about him, so that's my guess that they're probably going to turn in another direction. But Hand makes sense for them, that's for sure. And you probably see some other lefties that you know, come in, you know, for spring training when they get around to it.
So I just have one more question.
You look at all these guys. You look at all these guys like down in spring training, and then you see a Mookie Betts signed for what, 300 million? You know, whatever he got, and all these free agents say, "Well, I'm going to be the next $300 million person." But I think nobody's going to get one of these 8 or 9 year contracts anymore. I just don't see that. I mean, I'm looking at, I don't care how good Cole is. And, you know, I mean, Garrett is a heck of a great pitcher. But, you know, I can't see seeing him going 10 years. You know, I mean, you know, these teams, you know, I look at a team like Tampa Bay, that their payroll is so small, even though after they get pretty good, they'll trade their top guy for 4 minor leaguers. And this is what they do. And, you know, I mean, do you think a lot of teams will eventually go to like a Tampa Bay type of organization where they don't have the top salary guys? And I mean, you could get rid of any of those guys because the longest contract, 3 years maybe. But these other teams, you look at the Yankees. I mean, they got 4 or 5 guys. They got 10-year contracts, and they can't play. And this is what happened. You look at Ellsbury, and you had to pay this guy so much money over a 3 or 4 year period. If you talk to Crane and myself and Arthur, and you look at, you got $76 million guaranteed to somebody, and he's out in California not doing anything, hey, when we had a good season, if we signed for an extra $2,500 a year, we're having a pretty good year. So, we had to fight for that. That's what we had to do.
I think you can do that in Tampa Bay and in small markets, but I don't think you can do that in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or Boston. And Ed, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just think that works in the Tampa Bay area because they don't draw many fans anyway.
Right.
And so they're able to get away with it. And they've been lucky enough to develop young players and be competitive, which is great. But I don't think the Yankees would ever think about doing that. And the Mets are probably going to reevaluate their look. They're going to be frugal, but they're not going to be chintzy. They're going to spend money when they have to. But I just think you can do that in the small markets and get away with it. But I think the big cities and the big markets that are used to, charging high prices for tickets and concessions and all the other things that go with running a ball club in these big cities, I just don't think you can do that.
Yeah, that's
I
not.
think, I kind of agree with both of the guys. With Ronnie, he's right. Some of these contracts don't pay off. My feeling is, if I was running a ball club, I would probably want to front load some of these contracts because the first 3 or 4 years of these contracts really mean something to a ball club for the simple reason that guys can perform. You can't tell me Stanton's going to be able to play that last 5 years of his contract. So you're paying money for nothing. I'd rather pay more money when a guy can produce for me early on and then get rid of him and let somebody else eat that contract. So I might be paying more dollars up front, but I at least be getting a competitive player and get rid of them and bring up those young players. You got to build up both organizations. Your minor league system is very important to fill in because you can't go out and get 9 free agents. It'll cost you too much money. You'll be out of money. You can't put enough people in the ballpark to support it. But you don't need them because after the first 5 years of these long-term contracts, these guys are not productive. They're hanging around, and you're paying contracts for 100 years after their playing career. That's ridiculous. That's when you go broke, and that's when these franchises will start folding. So if I need a player for 2 or 3 years, let's pay them a little bit more. And those players are greedy. They're going to go where the most money is. They're not kidding anybody. Give me 3 years. Give me 3 years at $75, $80 million. I'll come to New York as opposed to maybe my favorite team is somewhere else or Tampa Bay. But after that, the guy isn't worth it anymore. Like you said, Cole at the Yankees, he's not going to pitch. The last 4 or 5 years, the Yankees will be paying for nothing, taking up space and dollars from you. And that new owner that's going to own them at that particular time, how's he going to pay for all those guys that are not on the ball club? You won't have a 25-man roster or a 40-man roster. You'll have a 60-man payroll that you're paying.
So what do you think, Ed? What would you do?
I think Eddie just got rid of Hal Steinbrenner. That's what I think. He said that he's going to be a new owner for the Yankees. My God.
Well, I'll tell you what, how's he going to pay all those salaries?
No,
he's going to take his profit and run. His father bought that ball club at a pretty good price.
$9 million.
When somebody comes around and offers him $3 or $4 billion, he might say, who needs the aggravation or worry about, some of these players and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea to take your profit and run sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of long-term contracts. The best one the Mets probably had was Beltran, and even that was a 7-year deal, but they signed him, I think, when he was 27 or 28.
Right.
He probably got 4.5 really good years. Maybe, you want to push it to 5. There were a couple of years when he was hurt, but, the guys break down, and that's, Justin Turner, former Met, and he went on. He's been a great Dodger. I think we know that. I saw the other day he wants a contract. He's 36. He wants a 4-year contract. Nobody's going to give him a 4-year contract. I love Justin. I hope he gets it, but it's tough when you get to that age. It's simply not going to be there for you.
There's only that one era that it worked. It doesn't really work in real life, and you know that. Your body breaks down. We all know that. We all played the game, and you can feel your body, changing over the years. That steroid era, guys played longer and they were a little bit more productive. But most guys cannot perform up to that caliber. There was only a couple that really were able to do it. Bonds and, of course, Pete Rose. And Pete Rose was playing hard until he's 45. He's a guy you can give a long-term contract with because he played every day and he didn't have any injuries. He was amazing. That guy was a physical specimen. At between 40 and 45, he didn't miss a game at Philadelphia. He played out his contract, but most guys don't perform. There's plenty of guys on the sidelines collecting a lot of money that are not helping the ball club right now. I want people that can help me now. I don't want to pay for it down the road.
Correct.
Exactly. Hey, Ed, far be it from me to feel bad for the Yankees, but when the Yankees signed Stanton to that contract, who were they bidding against? It seemed to me.
No one.
Themselves.
It was no one. It was like a $250 million contract.
Well, the Marlins signed him to the contract. The Yankees.
And the Yankees.
Yeah.
And I think the Yankees, I think they give them like $20 million out of $200 million. Oh God, you got, I'm not taking anything away from him because when he was with the Marlins, he had an unbelievable year. But playing down in Miami when you got 3,000 people, and when you're up in New York and you got 100 papers that's following you every single night, and you have to wake up if you strike out 4 times, and you look at the back of the Post and the Daily News and the New York Times. They kill you. I mean, in Miami, they'll have like a shark in the back of the page. Somebody caught a big shark and have the Marlins on the last page. You could come to the ballpark and not feeling bad. And you look at that. I mean, most of the people, Ed and Art will tell you, it takes a different player to be able to play in New York City. It takes a different player. And I mean, you just don't, okay, let's take an example. You take Gary Sanchez, and he's had 3 pretty bad years in New York. And, when you hit 147 and, and he was on Michael Kay the other day, I think, saying something, the hot stove, that the Yankees didn't tell him why he didn't play in the playoffs. You have to look at you're batting 147. I mean, if we batted 147, we would never see the minor leagues, right, Ed?
You'd be released. You'd be released in a hurry.
They were we wouldn't even be, we couldn't even buy a ticket for the game.
When I hear a comment like that, I got to say to myself, what's this guy thinking? If he's hitting 147, why aren't I playing? Get a couple of base hits and you'll be playing every day. So he should be working out this winter. He should be proving to himself that he can play. He's got to get in the mental shape to play the game 162 games. So go work out, go play winter baseball, show somebody you can do something. Show it on the field. Show us some proof that from spring training on, have a good spring, earn that spot down in Florida. He got a big contract, go work out. You have every opportunity to go to the gym all winter, get yourself in the best shape you can and prove that you're the player you want to be. You think you're a star. He's been reading too many newspapers. He remembers when he was a player. Well, maybe in the Little League, he was a good player and his first year or 2 up. But he's been terrible the last 2 years. So prove it to the Yankees. They proved it to him. They have faith in him. They gave him a contract. He could have went to spring training as a free agent and make the club. That's what they used to do with older players when we played. You had to make the club in the spring if you wanted to gamble.
You know, I saw him coming up in the minor leagues, and when we're down at Yankee fantasy camp, he was always in the backfield in the minor league. And I mean, he was really, a 16-year-old kid, 6'2", 215, built, strong as a bull, a typical Spanish hitter, hit lineas. That's line drive, of course. And, that's what he did every single day. Hit the ball to right center, to left center. Now, all of a sudden, you got two players in front of him. You got Aaron Judge and you got Stanton. Those guys are hitting a few home runs, and, he wants to hit the ball 500 feet. He's pulling every pitch on the outside part of the plate. He's trying to pull the ball. Yankee Stadium, you hit a fly ball to right field, it's a home run. I mean, that's a no-brainer to do. So, I mean, you still got to be a good hitter to be up in the big leagues and to be able to play you can't look at 3 years ago. He was like the rookie of the year or runner up for rookie of the year or whatever. I mean, this is, he's 28 years old now. He's in New York City now. He's going to strike out a couple of times and he's going to hear the boos. But this is part of New York. And you know that, Ed, hey, they're going to boo you. Hey, if you make an error, there's been some great players that been to New York. Look at Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray was a great pitcher. He had great stuff. Comes to New York and he couldn't pitch. Goes to Cincinnati, had a super year. And then you had Ed Whitson. I think Ed started in San Diego, I believe, and he was pretty decent pitcher. Well, he was a good pitcher, wasn't he? And, and then you come to New York and, all of a sudden, you're doing bad and you got people from the stadium following you at home. This is New York. This is what it is here. You better produce. That's the name of the game. You got to produce.
And it's not just baseball, Ron.
Oh, it's everything. It's everything.
In Sanchez's case, if he was a better catcher, we wouldn't be talking about him so much because he can hit home runs. Right. 147 in today's game, nobody really talks about it. The fact that he can hit home runs, and I don't know what his home run at bat ratio is, but the fact that he can hit home runs, he would stay in the big leagues a long time. But in his case, he's such a bad defensive catcher that it kind of overlooks some of the things that he does offensively. And I think all in all, he just had a terrible year last year. But I look at players today and I see guys go up to hit and they're such weak batters, W-E-A-K, weak. And I look at them and I say to myself, how did they get to the big leagues? Well, expansion, they're in the big leagues because there's no room for really, there's just room for guys who are mediocre. And just getting back to Sanchez, he can hit home runs, and that's why he's still around. Because
speaking of players that had these low batting averages, I remember in the late 60s, there was an infielder. I think he played for the Reds or the Cardinals. I think he played for the Reds named Chico Ruiz.
Oh, I played with him.
Yeah.
I
thought he was the most self-aware player because reportedly he went to the manager and said, bench me or trade me.
I don't remember that particular comment, but I did play with him with the Reds and Chico Ruiz. Yeah, I remember.
Didn't he play with wasn't he the player that went to the Angels?
Yes.
And then AJ and him, remember Alex Johnson?
They had
Chico. Am I right about that?
They had a fight, and Alex Johnson said he threatened him with a knife.
A knife or a gun? One of them, yeah. I think Chico was going to do voodoo on him. He was going to do something with them, And
he got killed in a car crash, young.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. I don't even think his baseball career was over when that happened.
Really? I never knew that. But, you look at guys that the Yankees, but you pay these guys so much money and they got to produce. And, it's just not just hitting. We're going back to Sanchez. He has a great arm. Then they brought a new catcher instructor for him to teach him how to go on his right leg. And, I mean, when people throw fastballs, I mean, it looks like he's playing against Max Papkin. And, when somebody throws a fastball, he doesn't catch it. It hits him right square in the face. And I mean, it's something that, I mean, I really don't know. I mean, hey, I mean, you look at Aaron Judge. Here's a guy that's been injured for the last 3 years. And hey, let me tell you something. Ed, I want to bring up something to you. What do you think about conditioning with these guys now? I'm looking at these guys and when I go to the stadium and I get there early and I do a lot of suites and a lot of meet and greets and stuff, and I watch the guys go out there and, the pitchers, how we used to do it, Ed, or we used to run from sideline to sideline to sideline. But these guys are not running anymore. These guys, they throw us. I don't know if you have seen them. They throw a Frisbee. Have you seen them do that? They throw Frisbees.
I have.
Have you seen that?
I haven't. No,
You haven't seen them. They at Yankee Stadium, they have Frisbees and they throw it. And I asked the pitching coach, I said, what are they doing? So they won't get bored. Won't get bored. I mean, I'm looking at this, I'm saying to myself, hey, the pitchers, if they're not pitching, they used to run, and Ed would tell you, and Art would tell you, they used to run from sideline to sideline to sideline. And they used to go out and, the pitchers, I mean, you take Nolan Ryan, you take Madlack, Kuzman, those guys would throw 130, 140 pitches a game. But these guys are trained to do that. These guys now are throwing 40 pitches. I can't throw anymore. After 40 pitches, they got to go to this guy, to this guy, to this guy, to this guy. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I mean, hey, it's not the game that we used to play. It's a game that is, this is how it's played now, but I don't like how it's played myself. And, and I don't know how you feel about it, but it's a different way to play baseball.
Yeah, no, listen, it's changed. There's no question. The good ones, I still see Jacob deGrom go foul line to foul line. I still see him do all his conditioning. And listen, for the most part, I think Met pitchers are fall in that category. My personal thing has been that I think guys spend too much time in the weight room. I think, if you do your work in there and you do, you do your conditioning stuff, do it on a regular basis, on a daily basis, that's fine. I think guys spend way too much time in there overall, just in general in the game. I think it probably affects the game that way, to me negatively, but nonetheless, that's things have changed in that regard. So, you have, I think the staff in Major League Baseball now has grown to such that you've got nutritionists, you've got conditioning people, you've got a ton of people taking care of guys. There really is no way that you should be out of shape. Let's put it that way. But I think the good ones, the great ones, still go about their business like you guys went about your business, and I think that'll show on the field too.
You like the analytics?
Well, listen, they're here to stay, Ron. Do I love it? No. Do I, all I have to do, I was saying the other day when I was watching the Eagles of Washington, you guys were probably watching that game too, when Doug Peterson pulled out Jalen Hurts. To me, that was almost the same thing as Kevin Cash going out and getting Blake Snell. He's your one chance to win the game, and you're going to take him out of the game. I think, eye test. That's what analytics are fine. You're going to use numbers. All teams are going to use numbers these days, and you can break down things, and I think if you use them in the right way and you explain it to guys the right way, it can help. But at the same time, I still think you need, as a manager, you need the eye test. You've got to be able to see on a certain night or a given night, this is his game. This is this pitcher's game. This is this guy's game. I'm not going to mess with any numbers tonight. That's the way I feel.
Well, there's no feel in the game anymore with managers.
Right.
There's it's both Eddie Crane and I played for Gil Hodges, and Gil was a manager. Most of the managers I played for in my career were managers that played by intuition and feel. And I'm sure there was some printouts or some statistics that they looked at, but the reality of it is they knew about the guys at the end of the bench and knew that they were going to be needed at some point, either during the game, that particular game, or during the season. So they understood that, and they managed with that kind of mental thought process. But the game is such now that I just don't understand it, how a guy can be pitching really well and give up the ball in 4 or 5 innings. It just doesn't make sense to me. But again, I'm not on top of it like you are, Eddie. But it's just a very strange phenomenon which is going on. And what's all I'm curious about is that why isn't there one manager, just one in the big leagues, that doesn't believe in that? Why isn't there one guy that says, hey, I'm just not going to do that. If a guy's pitching a good game, I'm going to stick with him. But you don't see it. And it's either because the front office has dictated it's this or you're out of here or whatever it is. I just don't understand. But you would think there'd be one guy that would say, hey, I'm going to manage the way I want to manage and take the job because he's got the credentials and do it that way. But you just don't see it.
I guess it might be interesting to watch Tony La Russa this year in Chicago, because they're a very analytic organization now, the White Sox, but La Russa obviously is an old school guy, so I don't know how that's going to work out. It might be interesting.
Well, that's a phenomenon in itself right there.
Yeah, that's
him
true.
Coming back.
Yeah, that absolutely. I think it's going to be interesting this year too, because we talk about pitchers on a short leash, and because of the shortened season last year and the number of innings that a lot of these guys pitched, which wasn't a lot, I think you're probably going to see a lot more of that this year. You're probably going to have pitching staffs that are 10, 12 deep, because a lot of these guys are not going to let go 200 innings if you have a full season. And the DeGroms, the Coles, guys like that, they'll be fine. But other guys, I think they're going to have a short leash with. They'll give them 5 innings or whatever, and that's it, and on to the bullpen. So it's going to be interesting to watch this year because of the shortened season last year, what kind of season you get this year.
And it's also
exactly. And that's the reason why having a deeper staff rather than perhaps one superstar and a bunch of mediocre pitchers might really be the answer in this era for this particular season.
Mm-hmm.
It also is the rules that they keep in the game. Last year they had those rules they can send these guys, if they pitch a little bit, back to the minor leagues and bring them up 2 days later and stuff like that. So they utilize more on the roster. So they might be doing that again this year. You don't know what they're going to put into effect, as far as the season is concerned. But, getting back to those managers, I think a lot of these young managers that come into the game are looking over their shoulders so much that they're using this analytics a little bit too far. Because years ago, the only guys that used to critique the games was the press afterwards. But now you've got the front office telling them how to manage. You've got everybody upstairs picking them apart on every move they make. But so they figure, let's do what the numbers say, and they can't second guess me. They're not using their own thought process on sometimes a guy can play in certain situations. You can forget with analytics. Some guys hit better in certain situations, can hit certain pitches. You can't just move guys just because the numbers say to move them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're right, but not everybody's critiquing a guy. Now you've got the general managers, you've got the president of the ball club, you've got the owners making decisions. Years ago, it was only the press. After the game, when you lost, the press would rip the manager apart. But now everybody's got a say in it. So this is a committee that's managing nowadays, and you see it by the people they choose sometimes to manage. They're the most unlikely people sometimes that are getting an opportunity to manage, and they keep going around from club to club. They're not bringing in new people. Bringing back La Russa, you're going to see, because he's the old timer, is he going to be able to manage like he used to? Is he really the manager? Gil Hodges was the manager on the field. The front office didn't tell him who to play, and he controlled the field. The general managers were upstairs in their office and they were doing their thing. But the game has changed, so you just have to see it evolve. I personally don't like the way it's going. There's too many guys being used. The games are much too long.
We're losing you, Ed.
Yeah. Maybe my
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good now? I just don't think that the fans can stay out there 4 hours and have that attention span to change pitches every hitter and, all these situations that are going on. They can't speed the game up. There's too much going on here. We've got to get back to the old game of baseball. Throw the ball, hit the ball, run the bases, have fun out there and enjoy themselves. And I think, the fans will love it. And they'll come back because it's still a great game.
Are they going to put a guy on second base in the beginning of extra innings like last year? Because that really just bothered
That's
me.
what they're
to no
talking
end.
about.
Yeah.
That's the rule they like.
Oh, wow.
I find it amazing. And Ron, listen, you were a DH, but I find it amazing that we're this close to the baseball season and they still haven't told the National League whether they're going to have a DH or not.
Terrible.
It's listen, they had it in last year. I think it's going to be moving forward. I think it's inevitable, and I think in 2020, get past the next collective bargaining agreement, I think the DH will be in there. But thus far, they said it's probably not going to be there. But I don't know how you form a team, honestly, or how you go about kind of setting your course for the season. If you know or don't know you have a DH, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
sure
you gotta
Dominic
know
Smith would like to know.
You got to know what's going on in the game because, like you say, Ed, you've got to build your ball club around
Yep.
whether you do have a DH or not.
Right.
But also, if you have a DH, you don't need as many players. You can add more pitchers, so you can build that part of your organization up. Also, I mean, if I have a DH, you're only playing the same 8 guys all the games, and you maybe use 1 or 2 guys off the bench, so you need less players and more pitchers, and that's the way they want because with all these situations, they're bringing guys in for 1 hitter, 2 hitters. They need more pitchers. They burn the arms out, warming them up. It takes just as much stress on somebody's arm to warm up every day than it is to go out there and pitch 2 or 3 innings.
What I think the toughest thing is after a pitcher pitches, he knows he's going to be sent back down to, I'm talking about the Yankees. He'll have to go back to Scranton. So he knows after he pitches, he needs to get dressed and he has to get back in the car to go back to Scranton. I mean, to me, that's to go back and forth and back and forth. I mean, hey, we used to run from, if we go 0 for 10, 0 for 12, we used to run from the managers. We don't want to see these guys. We don't want to see these guys. If they saw us, they're going to send us back to Syracuse or back to wherever. But these guys, as they know they're going to pitch, and they know they're going to go back to Scranton. In a week, they all know they're going to come back to New York. I mean, to me, that's very difficult to play baseball. I mean, these guys going back and forth and back and forth. And I mean, it's a whole different way of game. I mean, it's I don't see how they do that. I mean, I really don't see how they do that. So, anybody else has any great things to talk about?
Ed Coleman,
Yes.
anybody ever tell you that you look and sound like Governor Murphy of New Jersey?
No. No.
A couple
What
of
people tell me all the time, though, that I look like Sandy Alderson. As a matter of fact, when I'm down at spring training, I always get the, "Hey, Sandy, good luck." Maybe it must be the receding hairline. I don't think we look that much alike, but I've always told Sandy that I can ruin his career, so he better be nice to me. I'll start turning on the fans if they keep recognizing me as him.
The one thing good, let me tell you something. We're talking about contracts. The guy that had the greatest contract is Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still
I'm
paying.
looking at Bobby Bonilla. I mean, he looks at us the first of the year that we're trying to scrape and to pay your mortgage, and he's out there. The team is just signing $1 million to him. I mean, to me, I mean, how
He
many more years?
reinvented Social Security.
He had a smart wife. He had a smart wife who negotiated a good contract.
Oh, what a contract! I mean, look at that.
You're not
He
kidding.
probably thought he was stupid about doing that, but he's doing an unbelievable job. I mean, hey, smartest man in baseball, I
There
think.
you go, Lenny. There you go.
Look at
Lenny,
that.
you did another selfie, big guy. You did a selfie.
Not bad at all.
No, But, baseball, yeah, hey, just think about it. Baseball starting in spring training is supposed to start in 6 more weeks?
About 6 weeks, yeah.
6 weeks.
It's around February 10th or 12th or thereabouts, and guys come early. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, both sides said they were going to push forward, and we're going to have a full season, and we're going to have a full spring training. The dates are already set. I mean, they've got a spring training schedule and a full schedule for the season, but I think I'll believe it when I see it.
Hey, Eddie Coleman, can I ask you a question?
Yeah. All right.
You've been doing this a long time. I mean, we worked together way back in WFAN first went on the air,
Absolutely.
and you do a great job. But I'm just curious as to how difficult was it last year? You're a guy that would go into the locker room and do interviews and all those kind of things that were up close and personal, and people enjoyed them. But last year was such an aberration, and this year, who knows what's going to happen? How difficult was it for you as somebody that does the post-game shows and pre-game shows and things of that nature to get a feel for the game and bring the people, some inside information that you're not right there,
It was hard, Art. Yeah, it was definitely very different. I mean, what you're talking, you hit it on the head. When you have the kind of job that I do, the daily stuff, going in, talking to the players, asking somebody what happened with a certain pitch or a certain play the night before, what were they thinking, those kind of things you really couldn't do via Zoom. You had an interview set up and you had questions you could ask, kind of general questions, and that was pretty much it. And you never got that one-on-one in the locker room, which it's important. It's important. At least I've always felt that way. It's important to do my job. And so it was tough. Yeah, it was definitely different. It was difficult. Hopefully that changes this year. I don't know if it will. Right now, I would say it's probably not going to. And listen, I think we'd all love to see the fans back in the stands too, but I think that's going to take a while as well too. I'm sure the ball players felt that, in any sport. I think you feel that. You want to see the fans around and get the energy from them as well too. So yeah, it was different. It was difficult. And if I can say one thing, Art, and I know I'm not here to plug a book, and I'm not plugging your book, but I'm going to say this: After the Miracle, that was a tremendous book, and if people haven't seen that,
It really was.
Thank you.
You really
Thank
should
you.
get that. That
Well,
was a great book.
Look,
I had great teammates like the Crane, and it was really about the camaraderie and the friendship that all of us developed over the years, and it certainly was helped by us being not such a good team. And for Eddie, in Eddie's case, he was with the Mets when they were the lovable losers, and for us to go ahead and win that championship was incredible, and we're still reaping the benefits of it. Unfortunately, we've lost a number of the guys, but it was really a book about the love and friendship we have for everybody, and how winning that championship really kind of made us come closer together. And it's lasted all these years. I mean, it's 51 years now, and we're still going strong, and people today still want to talk about stuff that happened that year. And I'll tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
Over the years, Eddie Crane and I have done so many appearances together. We've signed so many things, but I've been with him at so many places, and every time I'm with him, 2 or 3 people come up to him and said, Crane, I went to the same high school as you did, Monroe High School. I was in your graduating class. And I said to him, over the years, I must have met 25,000 people that said they were in Ed Kranepool's graduating class. And I said to him, I said, how many people were in your graduating class? He said, I don't know, 1,500, Eddie, a couple thousand, maybe at most, 1,200. 25,000 people went to Monroe High School, and he graduated.
Sure did.
Yeah, we laugh about that all the time, but it's that I appreciate you saying that, Ed, because it was the book has gotten wonderful reviews, and it's just a wonderful thing about being so close and being part of that championship team. And if I can just add this one thing about that particular team, and I'm sure Crane will say the same thing. It's one of those few teams in the history of baseball that where you were when we won the World Series, if you were around at that time in 1969, and you can look back in the history of the game and say who won in a certain year. And the Yankees won in 27 with that great team with Ruth and Gehrig, but most people who follow the game of baseball who were old enough to remember, and some who weren't even born, know that the Mets won in 1969, and that's carried over all these years. And so that's been the wonderful thing about being part of that team.
You know, your book is just incredible. You know, Governor Patterson, how's your book coming? Why don't you mention your book and tell the people to get your book?
Well, I decided to write a book about my time in government and just growing up in the era that I grew in and that kind of thing. And I wish I could say that I thought of the title, but this friend of mine who actually lives in Australia thought of the title, and it's Black, Blind, and in Charge, because all those things happened to me simultaneously. And it was, it was pretty exciting. The only problem if you write a book now is you can't have a book signing because of the COVID rules.
Right.
And I did one in Syracuse, and apparently in Syracuse, they've never heard of social distancing. And so, we came back to New York convinced that we had the virus. And so we've kind of scaled it back a little bit until a time when you could really get out and try to move it. But thanks for mentioning it. And I really tried to deal with some of the issues with humor, which I've never really seen too many political people do, because nobody in politics really has a sense of humor. So that was my best effort.
You know, I just want to let you know, Ed, you probably don't even know it, Crane. I got a book that's coming out in April. It's called The Captain and Me On and Off the Field, about Thurman Munson.
Thurman, yeah.
Yeah, about Thurman. It's going to be it's in print right now. This week it went in print, and it's coming out in April. And Diane Munson did the forward of the book, and that's going to be really fun. It's not a baseball book. It's on and off the field what we have done. And I know y'all done it like from Studio 54 to El Vagabondos and Maxwell Plum and all these great places. And, of all the places that Thurman and I ventured into and what we did, and we had a great time on and off the field, and it's been great. And hopefully I think it's going to do great. And
I wish he was around to tell some stories about you.
Yeah, I don't want any of the stories. No. Hey, there's one story. Hey, you got to tell the 72-ounce steak. You got to tell that. I've never told any of these people that's watching this now. I guarantee it's probably 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people watching it. Talk about the 72-ounce steak. You got to. No, wait a second. Talk about the 12-egg omelet.
Yeah, we were. Well,
we
we were
talk about this. Listen to this.
Well, there's so many things to talk about. I don't want. What do you want me to talk about first? You got to give me a whole.
Talk about the Riverboat Queen, what we did in St. Louis in the 12 egg omelet.
Yeah, well, we were on this riverboat cruise. Myself, Bloomy, and who else was on that?
Fritzy.
Fritz Peterson.
And who was a relief pitcher? The real good relief pitcher for Ranky or
Tom Hankey.
Tom Hankey. Yeah, Tom Hankey.
Yeah.
So we went down to have breakfast one day, and this was separate of the time I saw him eat 8 filet mignons for dinner one night. But this is at breakfast time, and we went down, and they had this big sign on the table that said the chef is making a special today, 12-egg omelet. And I said to him, I just dared him. I said, "You going to try it?" And he said, "Not a problem." And he scarfed that up in about 12 minutes. So,
and ordered a second one.
And was thinking about a second one, but he was getting ready for lunch. So he didn't want to eat too much that morning.
He didn't want to spoil his appetite.
Oh no! Hey, Grady. Hey, let me tell you something. Hey, we didn't make much money. We didn't make any meal money. So I made sure it wasn't White Castles where we have to eat after a ball game. So.
They eat pretty good in the ballpark right now. That might be part of the problem. They don't leave the stadium. They're out there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'll tell you what, they're there all day.
You should
what I was when we went down to spring training. Ed, you were down there.
Right.
And in 2019, before the 50th anniversary, I remember talking to you when we had a little press conference. They took myself and Eddie and Cleon the first week, and then a couple other guys the next week. But we went down to spring training, and it was really wonderful. The Mets treated us really nice. But I was so amazed in that locker room in spring training with the chefs and the cooks in there. And we're not used to that. We were used to lunchtime having a little cup of soup and some vegetables, if I remember correctly, right, Crane?
That's all they gave you, you know.
Yeah.
We had that during the season.
But I don't know what you've seen the clubhouses down in spring training, Ed, and I mean they had got cooks down there. They got everything. It's like being in the plaza, you know. Yep. I mean, I was just amazed, and how life is works in funny ways, and how things have changed. But it was really interesting for me to see that scenario of events.
We always are trying to figure out why the scouts got to Met exhibition games so early. They were there like 10 o'clock in the morning.
I can understand that.
Just to get a place for lunch. Teresa and Mama take good care of everybody there, players and everybody involved.
Remember right. For lunch for spring training, we used to have chicken noodle soup, carrots and celery, and saltines. That's all we had for spring training. Remember, Crane?
That's it. You were on your own. You had to go out and fend for yourself.
That's what we did.
Well, we missed those days, but they were different. That's for sure.
Yeah. But I know y'all tired and everything. And I just wanted to let y'all know that Ed, Art, Crane, I really appreciate y'all doing this. And Governor Patterson, I really appreciate y'all doing this for me. I hope this was fun. You know, I mean, giving it back to the fans, if the Yankee fans, Met fans, are just a true baseball fan, we don't do this for anything. We just try to have the fans to enjoy getting to know us a little bit and just to have a good time. And I really appreciate you doing this, giving back to all the baseball people out there. And, you know, and I think about y'all all the time. One day we'll get to see each other again. We could shake each other's hands instead of you know, just saying hello in the Zoom and stuff like that. And meeting Ed down at Port St. Lucie, and you go down to Tampa, and Ed will be down there. Ed will have his jersey flying over the stadium, number 7. You know, stadium, Crane. You know,
we'll be down. We look forward to it. You guys be safe.
Hey, how can we not have fun, Boomer, when we're with you? We're with you, Boom.
Oh, no.
Not have fun.
Hey, you deserve it, Crane. And, you know, what you have done for the team and everything like that. And Ed being with the team for so many years, and with doing a lot of stuff with Horowitz and Jay and all those guys. And Governor Patterson, I know you're a big Met fan, and hopefully you're a little bit of a Yankee fan, a little bit in you, and a little bit of blue. But I just wanted to thank y'all for doing this for me, and anything I can do for y'all, anything like that. I really appreciate that. I love y'all to death. And, you know, Art, I talk to Art all the time, and Crane, I haven't seen him in a long time. And, you know, I mean, seeing these guys, and, you know, it's been fun. I mean, we're brothers. One thing about us, baseball players, we didn't make a lot of money, but we became friends. And, you know, and we have a lot of compadres. And, you know, these guys are great. And I love y'all to death. And thank y'all for doing this. And I love you. Anybody else want to say anything? Or
yeah, can I give a little shout out to two buddies that are on the program? My buddy Miles Runsdorf, and you know Ronnie down in
oh yes,
he's on tuned in, and Andy Richter, who produces the podcast that I do.
Okay,
he's on too. So
also I did Art's podcast. It's incredible. You got to.
Well, Crane, Eddie Crane was my first guest. So
and
neither one of us
right there,
and neither one of us knew how to do Zoom.
It's really great. And Art's on Twitter, and you know, and Ed, do you do this? Do you do this Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff?
I do Facebook. I don't do Twitter. You know, I leave that to Trump. You know, I don't do that. I don't get involved in
No
Twitter.
politics, no politics.
Oh, that's funny.
No way. I got enough problems. I had trouble getting on Zoom tonight, but I'll tell you what, it's been fun. That's the only way we can talk to the fans, and we really love it. You know,
I
That's been
tell
great.
everybody it's easy to hit a Nolan Ryan fastball than rather doing all this technical stuff. And what Ed does this all day, you do this every
Way too
day.
much. Yeah, way
With
too
all
much.
this technical stuff. More power to you, big guy. More power to you. But I
Right.
love y'all all. Thank y'all very much.
Great to see everybody.
okay, good
Governor,
to have
take care.
you.
See you guys.
Ed,
Good to
take
see
care.
you.
Good
Love
luck.
y'all.
Everybody.
Guys.
Love y'all.
Crane, talk to you
See you
tomorrow,
later.
Crane.
Sham,
Love
we'll
y'all.
be talking.
Bye-bye,
Okay.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
Love y'all.
Governor.
See ya.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, see you
Okay,
later.
see you guys.
Bye.
I might even become a Met fan. I don't know. This was really good. This was really good. Good night, Mr. Kranepool.
See you guys.
Oh, we're not going to say anything bad about him, so we can talk. That was a great show tonight. Like I said, I might become a Met fan. Wait, I don't think my speaker's on.
You better turn that speaker.
It's all right. I might become a Met fan. Anyway, guys, next week we got a really big show, and Joe's going to tell you all about it. I can't hear you. Can you guys hear Joe? Because I don't hear him. Hey. I don't hear you, so. All right, maybe we just ought to end it then, because I don't hear you. I'm not sure if anybody else hears you. Next week, we're going to have Chris Chambliss and Mark Littell. So I guess we'll be talking 1976 playoffs. There you go. And then the week after that, we're going to have Jack Curry and Billy the Bat Boy Pinkney. So a lot more Yankee talk coming up. For you Met fans, we'll see what we can do down the road. And you all have a good night. Love you all.